Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I always start off just giving you a little bit of information about myself, but I was introduced that way. So this is just me and my family. I have a son who's in his 4th year of education, and my daughter Autumn she took a science degree, was going to go into medicine, and then she decided at the end of her science degree, I'm going to be an engineer, so she started all over again. So she's 27, and he'll be 26 next month. That's my husband, Parker, and our 3 dogs, Juno, Omaha, and Benny. Benny was inherited to us in November, so we weren't expecting to get an 11-year-old dog when we already had 2 5-year-old golden retrievers, so Benny joined us in November. So as you said, I've been in education for 31 years, and I've seen a lot of sides of education. I've taught from kindergarten to grade 12, so I've taught little ones how to read and write, and I've taught grade 12 pre-calculus. I've taught on the vocational side, teaching human ecology department, and I've been an administrator for grades K to 12, both in the English and the French immersion program. So when I look at data and look at decisions that have to be made in our division, I can look at it from many different lenses, which is good, because I can see it from many different perspectives. And I know with our board, quite often, I'll bring up things, well, you have to look at it like this too, and try to get them to understand the data as well. So, Portage Prairie School Division, so this is just a little, it's off of our continuous improvement plan. So we employ approximately 625 permanent term and casual staff, and our last student population was actually the one I just received just now. It's 3,502. So we're at a 25-year average high, and we are 55 minutes just down the Trans-Canada Highway. And even though that we're 55 minutes just down the highway, we do have a hard time as a rural. We are a rural division. Hiring teachers, especially during and since the pandemic. Not a lot of teachers are leaving the city area, or they're staying in their university areas. We also are a feeder school to 3 First Nation communities that are around Portage: Dakota Teepee First Nation, Dakota Plains First Nation, and Long Plain First Nation. Dakota Teepee, some come to us from kindergarten right to grade 12. Some will enter us at high school, because Dakota Teepee, during COVID, developed their own school at Dakota Teepee. So some students are staying at Dakota Teepee. Dakota Plains, they have a K-8 school, and then they are fed into our high school in grade 9. We don't get a lot of students from Dakota Plains. It's a smaller school, but we get about 11 to 15 per year. But Long Plain, we have approximately 188 students from Long Plain First Nation. Kishkimakwa is in Portage, La Prairie. Like the Kishkimakwa is its own community, and it's the only urban reserve in Manitoba that actually has people living on Kishkimakwa. So we get about 70 students from Kishkimakwa that are kindergarten to grade 12. But Long Plain has a K-8 school, and so when they come to Portage and for grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 right now. So we have a very diverse population. Almost 50% of our student population identifies as First Nation or Indigenous, and we do have quite a few of our families are in extreme poverty. So why did we decide to use the I in the Portage Prairie School Division? Well, as you're aware, if you're in Manitoba, we do the Early Development Instrument every 2 years, and what we were finding was through the EDI that we were getting the same information approximately every 2 years. We knew what our socioeconomic status was. We knew all of the information that was coming from our EDI scores because it was not changing very much. So we wanted something that was going to help us when the children were coming into kindergarten. We wanted a picture of the whole child so that hopefully that would help us as we went into the grade 3 assessment, that we would be able to make some gains with these kids from kindergarten to the end of grade 2 and targeted gains. So when we looked at the I talked to a couple of school divisions that were using it, and I just wanted to know why they went through the I. Then I met with Christine from the Learning Bar, and we had a session with Christine, myself, the Student Services Director, and kindergarten teacher. I wanted at least one of my kindergarten teachers there to hear and listen about it. And then the second step we did is we contacted one school division that had been using it for about 3 years. We asked them to come to Portage, so they came to Portage. We talked to them, and I did ask for them to bring a kindergarten teacher as well, because I wanted the input right from the teacher. So we met and we discussed it, and then we decided that, yeah, we're going to give this a try because we wanted valuable data and we wanted it to be able to be presented in a divisional format, a school format, a classroom level, and at the parent level. So that was our big decision why we decided. So we're only in our second year of the I, so I'm just kind of bringing you through like our implementation process and how I use the data. So I get the privilege here of having the last slot of the day and keeping you guys from going home. So I'm going to go through some of these slides very quickly. But what we wanted was, like, we were using a response to intervention model, and almost all of our schools had common preps except for 2. So when we looked at the way that the I data was presented, how it was presented in Tier 1, Tier 2, and 3, we felt, okay, that's great. That's an easy way to target it. So we found, like through research, that if a child's in Tier 2 or Tier 3, they have a significant less chance of becoming a successful reader if targeted interventions aren't in place. So our Year 1 implementation. So because we signed up late, we weren't able to train our teachers till the fall, which, as you know, September is such a busy time, but we pulled them out for 2 solid days of training. And I gave each teacher an iPad with a pencil with the hope that that would help them with their assessment and entering the data. At that time, too, and just before school, we decided that we would use our I-assessment parent report in Term 1 and in Term 3 as the report card. We needed to update our kindergarten report card, so we decided that's why we decided we'll try this as a report card and with comments. I have a literacy support team of 2.5 equivalent FTE. So one of the people on the team, Jennifer Adamson, her 0.25 of her position was to help implement the I and to work with the kindergarten teachers. So our focus of Year 1 was basically understanding the assessment, implementing it, and trying to use some of the parent tools and looking at the classroom data and getting teachers to look at data. Because we were always telling our teachers assessment and data should drive your instruction. So our results for the fall of 2021, they were not good, and we knew they were going to be good. So 77% of our kids ended up being in Tier 2 or Tier 3. So 77% of our children needed some type of targeted intervention. In the spring, when we redid the assessments, we saw a really good improvement. So I can just show you the comparison there. So by having those targeted interventions, we were able to make very good gains for our kids. So this chart here shows our reduction of 20%, a reduction of 17%, and a growth of 37% of our students in kindergarten across our division. So then we go into 21-22. So this is the domain results comparing the fall to the spring. And these are the domains the kids are assessed on: awareness and self-environment, social skills and approaches to learning, cognitive skills, language and communication, physical development, fine motor, physical development, gross motor. So again, you can see the gains from the fall to the spring, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to see gains in our students. So what did year 1 tell us? Year 1 told us what supports we had to put into the grade 1 classrooms for these kids going in. The 40% that were still Tier 2, Tier 3. We did some targeted professional development for our grade 1 teachers. So we use a coaching model in our division. So quite often what we will do is we'll have a division, say a grade 1 division session. All the grade 1 teachers will attend. And then the rest of the time it's push in with the coaches. we went through and decided what we were going to target for professional development for our grade 1 teachers. We made sure there was opportunities for our kindergarten teachers to share the specific information from the eye assessment to the oncoming grade 1 teachers. And it's also helped us try to balance the class composition. If some of our schools had 2 classes, some have 3, some have 5, it depends. An increase in literacy and intervention and reading recovery time. So we looked at what we would need for staffing in the fall, and we targeted a couple of schools, and we started them off right away with extra time just to work on early literacy or reading recovery. We gave the parents some summer strategies for incoming grade 1 students. We continued the professional development of the teachers using the eye tools. And we also trained any kindergarten teachers that we knew were going to be in kindergarten in the fall. We trained them in June. So we didn't have to do the training in the fall anymore. And Jen just trained them 1-on-1 or 1-to-2, depending on how many we had. So then we get our results this past fall. Pretty much the same thing. We went from 77 to 74. So 74% of our kids this year need targeted interventions. So this is just a comparison to show you. So we're looking, okay, so I'm thinking next year, if it's in the 70s again, that's the trend right now. They're not coming in with a lot of skills. We have students, and I know this is across the province, I still have students we're March next week, they're still not potty trained. Some of them still think their name's baby or junior, and the social skills can be very limited in some of the cases. So these were our domain results for this fall. So again, a lot of numbers, very high in Tier 2 and Tier 3. Cognitive skills was very concerning to me, because only 75 kids across the division were at a Tier 1 level for cognitive skills. So this is what I look at. And one of those schools is our colony school. So we have 17 schools in our division, 1 composite high school, a K-4 dual track, a 5-8 dual track, then the rest are all either K-8 or K-6, and then we have 9 colony schools. So one of those schools there is representative of our colony school. So when I looked at this data, I targeted School 1 and School 4 right away. I gave them more supports with, as Christian said, pockets of money that we had, found some money to support them. Our problem in the rural area is Christian can find 5 teachers. I can't. I start hiring teachers for this fall. I hired 5 French immersion teachers last October for next year. They're just graduating students. So we had to come up with a couple of different plans. Had to tap on the shoulders of retired teachers, retired resource teachers, to help out the schools. So this is another very good report for the divisional level. So again, it breaks it down by domain, and it also shows the RTI category that the schools are in. And I know I'm going through this fast, but so I just picked one school, and I wish I would have picked this other school. But so at this school, this is one of 2 schools in our division that have kindergarten half day. So this school has a morning kindergarten class and an afternoon class. The rest of my kindergarten classes have to be all day every other day because of busing. So this is one of the schools we felt that really needed to be supported. I sat down with my literacy coach, and we looked at our grade 3 assessment data from last year because we didn't have our data for this year, but we looked at that. And when I was going to the board to look for staffing, I said, I have to put more support in these schools if we want to see gains in the kids. So this is what the teacher sees. This is a classroom profile for the teacher. So those of you that are involved in the Numeracy Achievement Project, it's very similar. You can look and go, okay, I see that this social skills and approaches to learning, a lot of them are tier 1. So I can do small group instruction with that, or I can do individual instruction with that. And then there's a second report that they can get from the I-report that identifies just the tier 2 and tier 3 in their classrooms. So an example of using data is, so this last week, one of my principals contacted me. In September, she had, this is the K-4 dual track school, she had 17 and 17 in grade 1. We're February, and she has 26 and 25 in grade 1. Most of them are EAL students that have moved in, or CFS students that have moved in. So we have a lot of barriers with the kids. She also talked to me about her kindergarten class. And I just looked at her divisional data. I didn't break her data down by class. And divisionally, she was doing one of the best in the division. She says, well, my data has to be wrong. I said, well, your data's not wrong. So I said, let me take a deeper dive and look at it. Well, her French immersion data skewed the English data. And so we found out, yes, there is a lot of needs in those 2 English classes. So in the past 2 days, instead of hiring a teacher, we're very fortunate that Brandon University will work with us in their 5th years. So I have actually, starting on March 13th, I have 6 student teachers from Brandon University that are in their 5th year that are going into leaves or into positions. They all have limited term teaching certificates, but they're going in as student teachers. They have a cooperating teacher, but they're going to run the class. And so I contacted Bob Lee, and there was actually 2 former Portage students that wanted to change their student teaching placement to Portage. So one will be starting on March 13th, and we're going to split the grade 1 class into 3. And the other one will be going into the kindergarten as a support. My son is supposed to be student teaching at this school as well, and the principal had put him in phys ed. Now she's moving him to grade 1, so that we were putting supports in there. I've also I'm doing some contract work with a retired resource teacher to put some more supports in that classroom, as well as we're looking at a retired ECE worker that she ran. She's level, I forget what Tammy is, but she ran a daycare and she retired. So she's coming into the kindergarten class as well on a contract basis. And all of this was decided from the EYE assessment, because the principal knew her data for the other assessments, didn't quite know her data for this. So she said they're not making any gains. So I went to the board and said, this is what we need to do. And so then we just went ahead, and that's what we're doing, so that we can target those students to try to bring their gains back. So after year 1, going into year 2, what did we start to do? The divisional data was analyzed and support was given to specific schools. We also switched student information systems this year, and we went into Power School from Maplewood to Power School. So we were able to put our report card right into Power School, which was really good. I started just in the last couple of weeks, and now realizing, looking at this now, next year I'll do it in November as soon as we get our reports. But I'm going school to school, and I'm meeting with the school teams. I'm pulling out their EYE assessment and saying, what are you doing? What are we going to do to improve this? So I've had 2 meetings already, and for example, one of my veteran kindergarten teachers, she's an excellent kindergarten teacher, I asked her, because right away I picked out the 3 students that I had concerns about. I said, are you sending any of the parent activities home? No. I said, why not? Because all of these 3 students, they're with stay-at-home moms, so that mom could do an activity with them or 2 activities with them during the week. And that's the nice thing with the EYE assessment, is there's a bank of activities for the teachers, and there's a bank of activities for the parents, and they can be printed out, I think, in 75 different languages. It's quite a few languages, so that would help our EAL parents. So these individual meetings I found are very important because it's making the principals look at their data, it's making the school team look at their data, and there's also another feature on the assessment is you can create an action plan for the kids in Tier 2 and Tier 3, and it's a very easy form to fill out. It would probably take maybe 10-15 minutes. So we're also encouraging them to use that as well, because we don't give our kindergarten kids IEPs unless they're coming in with significant needs, and they've had support growing up from ages 0 to 5. So I also gave the kindergarten teachers last month, I just wanted to do a needs assessment survey. I wanted to know how they felt the assessment was going, how they were using their data. So I got a lot of valuable feedback from that. One thing that came up concerning with our colony teachers was one of the pieces of the assessment is where you identify community members. And like two colonies said to me, Ray, well, they've never been to a hairdresser before. They don't know what a hairdresser is. They might not know what a policeman is if they haven't left the colony. So I talked to Christine about that, and so we're going to develop, for that part of the assessment, we're going to develop our own to accommodate the colony families. And I've started the discussion of the translation feature because even in our colonies, they could send it home in German for their families if they wanted to send it home. So this is what our report card looks like. So we tried to mirror it to the provincial report card as much as we could. So this is where the teacher makes a comment, and Power School allows us to store these. And then this is what the parent report looks like. And so we sent these all home electronically with the report card. So we have the child report stored in a drive, and then we have the report card stored in Power School. So one thing about the parent report, some parents got very concerned with the yellow and red colors. So we could send them home in black and white if we wanted to, because you can just print it a PDF grayscale. But especially the very affluent parents, like, what do you mean this is a red? So we worked that out, and we talked to them and just tried to explain it's the development of the whole child. Another thing all of our kindergarten teachers are doing is they're doing what's called a growth book or a little portfolio. So parents can come in at any time and they can see their child's growth book, and they can see, okay, they have progressed since this. And so we found that to be a very valuable tool as well. But the reports were easy to read. I asked the teachers last year, I asked them this year, after the first reporting period, was there any concerns from parents about the format of the report? And they said no, there was no concerns. Last year, I had a few second-time kindergarten parents, so they felt it was a lot different. But like as I said earlier, we needed to change it anyway. We needed to change our reports anyway. So the big thing with all of this is you have to use your data. And you have to look at your data, and you have to get your school teams and your teachers looking at their data and how you can help support them with their data. And for me, as I've said, my big thing is staffing. So already for next year, I've already split classes. Like, we try very hard to keep our primary class sizes around the 20 mark if we can. We try very hard. So, and I justify that to our board with the data. I look at the grade 3 assessment, I look at this data, and I say we need to put more support, smaller class sizes in K to 3 for sure. And we had changed our French immersion report card a couple of years ago, and then our French immersion teachers wanted to do this as well. So this is the same report all across our division. So I went really fast. I could give you some comments from the teachers if you want to hear them, but I just want to, is there any questions? We've been helping some other divisions implement the eye, If you want to contact me, you're more than welcome. We can see how we can help support you. Again, we, as a rural division, we find it is a very valuable resource. The data drives our instruction. It targets the students, and that's the name of our game. We're all about kids and making our students better. So that's our job in education. Somebody had up there, I can't remember, about from teaching to learners, and that's very important. So I know I was quick, but